I found myself at a doctor's appointment. The doctor was really knowledgeable, which is rare. Most doctors are not trained, as you know, in menopause. And she educated me about hormone therapy. And then at the end of the appointment, she said, here's a list of products that you can buy on Amazon. And that night, I said to my husband, who sarcastically said, I'm sure you're not going to follow any of the advice from the doctor, because he was especially eager for me to get my libido under control. And I said, actually, I'm not. I'm not going to follow. I'm not going to buy any of that product. That product is not good enough. It's the best product out there, I will say that, but it is not good enough. It's not made with clean formulations. It's not modern. It's not all the things that we just created with First and Merit and Who, What, Where. And so that was my aha moment for saying, I want to disrupt the space. This space is so dusty. It's like bottom shelf product.
Welcome to Reclaim, a podcast powered by Future Digital. I'm Destiny Berman, founder and CEO of Future Digital, where we partner with venture-backed health, wellness, and family brands to scale with trust. Each episode, I sit down with founders and growth leaders to uncover two things: the story behind the brand and the decisions behind the growth. Let's get into it. Sally, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's very exciting to be in front of your audience and be interviewed by you.
I remember, so I think I first met you at a conference many years ago, and then we reconnected at a Luminary event in New York. So it's been some time now, and I've, had Womaness and your products on my radar. I've even taken some products as well. So I'm personally very excited and invested in having this conversation for many different reasons. One being that menopause has continued to receive more attention, more capital, more energy. So I thought maybe we could start with your origin story. You've had such an interesting background, 35 years in retail. I'd love to start with your founder journey and then what led to the birthing of Womaness and what was behind that. I know that's a big question, but there's such a good story here.
No, that's great. Well, I will just say, growing up, my mom actually was my parents were entrepreneurs, and my mom started a cosmetic business. It was a semi-franchise model. But I grew up working for her in that business, and it was really interesting. I grew up in Minnesota. She ended up having 4 studios, 4 different locations, and just interacting with women, helping women feel better, look better. There's so much psychology involved. So, that was in my blood. And my dad always said, make sure you work for a small company. Don't work for a big company. So what did I do after graduating from college? Or while I was at college, I got recruited to be an executive at Target. And everyone told me, if you get an opportunity with Target, take it. I mean, this is a long time ago. They were really on the brink of growth back then. And not saying that they're not today, but it's just, it was so, the retail landscape was just not crowded at all. And I'm talking, 1987 to date myself. So I joined Target and absolutely loved it. I loved the psychology of the business of being watching the consumer. I was in the girls' apparel department, so I learned a lot about trend forecasting, fashion trends, and I just couldn't believe how fickle that customer was. She, one day denim skirts were a trend, and the next day it was dead. So it was a really fantastic career. I was 10 years in merchandising, and then I was 10 years in merchandising, and then the last part of my career was spent in marketing. So about 15 years in marketing. And that's where I oversaw a lot of the design partnerships, worked with designers like Isaac Mizrahi and Liz Lang and Proenza Schouler and Missoni. and several others, and also all the entertainment studios, the athletes, helped, kind of bring life to some of the private label brands. So brand creation was always in my blood and in my skill set. So because I was such an entrepreneur inside a large company, I decided to leave in 2010 and start my own business. And then the next 12 years, I actually had my own business a couple different times. Then my clients would hire me. I was kind of every 2 years doing something different. And yeah. And what was great is formed a partnership with Catherine Power and Hillary Kerr. They founded Who, What, Where. Your audience probably knows of them. Fantastic digital brand. And together we created a whole line of fashion and we sold it into Target. We eventually expanded it to Zalando and in Europe and so on and so forth. And I ended up joining their company as their chief brand officer, helped incubate Versed Skincare, and worked a little bit with Catherine on Merit. So I started to dabble into the beauty side of the business. So while I'm doing all of this, I'm going through menopause. By now, I'm in my, late 40s, early 50s. And I knew I was in menopause, but I didn't realize menopause was so many symptoms. I just thought it was kind of like hot flashes, right? Or night sweats. I didn't realize it was sleep issues, libido issues, irritability, anxiety, all the things that I was experiencing. So I found myself at a doctor's appointment. The doctor was really knowledgeable, which is rare. Most doctors are not trained, as you know, in menopause. And she educated me about hormone therapy. And then at the end of the appointment, she said, here's a list of products that you can buy on Amazon. And that night, I said to my husband, who sarcastically said, I'm sure you're not going to follow any of the advice from the doctor, because he was especially eager for me to get my libido under control. And I said, actually, I'm not. I'm not going to follow. I'm not going to buy any of that product. That product is not good enough. It's the best product out there. I will say that, but it is not good enough. It's not made with clean formulations. It's not modern. It's not all the things that we just created with Versed and Merit and Who, What, Where. And so that was my aha moment for saying, I want to disrupt the space. This space is bottom shelf product back then, and this goes back, 7 years ago. So menopause wasn't even being talked about. And then my co-founder, Michelle, and I were really good friends from her career. She was at Time Inc. working on Real Simple. She pitched it to Target. That's how we met. I helped her kind of shape her pitch story. And we stayed friends and we decided to do this together. So
What?
the quick, not so quick answer, but I always find it so interesting what founders, how their families even helped inspire them. So my mom was definitely a role model for me.
What had you be so clear that you were going to pursue products and supplements versus hormone replacement? And I get that at that time, HRT wasn't even as widely educated. There wasn't a ton of education or conversation around it, but I'm curious what that was for you.
I think because we wanted it to be really accessible, meaning we wanted it to be sold, at retail and obviously through our own site. And we wanted to work with doctors to create the product, but we weren't thinking at that point about, we were a little intimidated, honestly, to be selling hormone therapy, because we would have to have obviously a whole medical crew behind us. And so this was really fitting to our vision of being like the first place she turns to when she starts to feel symptoms. And that's what we want Womaness to be, is really that first stop in her journey. And we are big proponents of hormone therapy. We know it's so beneficial to women. We also know not all women can take hormones. So I can't take it now that I've had breast cancer. So So we offer, I would say, that first line of defense for women and really encourage women, if they have more severe symptoms, to obviously consider going on hormone therapy.
So in your view, Womaness, the product line is to create more access, potentially as a first step. Do you see your customers as trying this as the first step before they even explore HRT? Or I know this is a nuanced question, but I wonder about it.
I think a lot of women do. I think a lot of women have said to us they want to first try more natural products. We're not 100% natural. We say we're clean, meaning we do use natural products, but we also use clinical lab-made ingredients as well. But they want to try that. And our products can be used in combination with hormone therapy. There's no reason why they can't be. We always say consult your doctor, of course, but they're safe to be used for the most part, along with hormone therapy. So, and we have a lot of really good educational content on our site about hormone therapy and the benefits of it as well. So we always encourage women to really push their doctors to consider putting them on hormone therapy. There's so many benefits to it.
That makes sense. And I'm curious about the process in which when you were defining product development, like what was your process in figuring out which symptoms, which combination of symptoms? I'm curious about that on the product development side.
For product development, what the process we ended up taking is we actually had focus groups. And we listened to women in New York, the Midwest. We had Zoom calls because we were also at some point developing this brand while COVID was happening. So at first we could have, I know, it was kind of crazy. At first we had in-person focus groups, but then in March of 2020, when the world shut down, we started doing everything on Zoom. And we learned a lot about how women thought we should shape the product line and the brand. And what they told us is don't just focus on one or two symptoms. Try to tackle as many symptoms as possible. There was a lot of information out in the market and through our doctor network that we tapped into about which symptoms we needed to address, which were the most important. So we knew, of course, skin and body. Your skin changes all over your body because the drop in, the fluctuation in hormones, the drop in collagen, everything becomes dry. I knew from my own personal experience, we wanted to tackle vaginal dryness. We knew obviously hot flashes and night sweats were an important issue, but not the top issue. And it's been interesting to learn a lot from our customers since we launched. Like, that is not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is weight gain and libido.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Not even brain fog, huh? I would have thought brain fog or
brain
like
fog is
moodiness.
up there, but it's not.
Wow.
Yeah, brain fog is up there, but it's not the most important.
Interesting.
So we really, when you think about all of our products, we really, at the end of the day, I feel like own skin. Whether it's vaginal skin, body skin, facial skin, neck skin, like we're really known for those categories. Even our supplements are to help with skin in a way, because we have Active Glow, which is all about hair, skin, and nails and joints. Menopause is our other really, really great supplement that has pycnogenol, which is known to really help with blood circulation and even has some benefits for skin. So all of our products kind of have that through line, but we really listened to those women at the very beginning. And then we also tapped into, like I said, some doctors some gynecologists that we worked with. And they really helped to shape like products and ingredients to lean into. So we knew like within sexual wellness, we wanted a vaginal moisturizer with hyaluronic acid, obviously for extra hydration, a water-based. We also knew that coconut oil was a really great, um, highly emollient for vaginal dryness as well. So we offer 2 vaginal moisturizers that are very different.
How large was the focus group and how wide ranging was the age range? Just because there's so much with perimeno.
I know. We had a pretty, I would say, we probably interviewed 50 women. So it wasn't huge, but we did have a range of younger perimenopause to menopause and even little postmenopause. So we did get really good perspectives from women. And then after we kind of had the product line pretty much set, we launched with 13 products, which was a lot. We were kind of criticized by investors, like you're launching with too many products. But we said we can't be a legitimate menopause brand without offering a range of solutions. We couldn't just launch with 1 or 2 products. We had to launch with conviction. So we then did other focus groups to really help shape the communication of the brand. Like we even showed them women and poses. And, before we did a photo shoot, we had we kind of knew what type of women these women were responding to. And it was, this is now like 6 years ago, but it was definitely this whole idea of relatability with a little bit of aspiration. Like they wanted to see themselves in these women. So don't make her too perfect. Isn't that interesting?
Yes,
Yeah. And then now we're in that era of like, oh my gosh, the raw, the better, messy hair, be in your bathrobe and create content.
Wow.
So anyway, that's a little bit of the history of the product. But we launched, like I said, with 13 products. Today we have about 13, but we've sunsetted about 5 products, not because they weren't good. They were just too niche. Like we had a dark spot remover, but it didn't work on all types of dark spots. Well, that just frustrates women, So we kind of learned some things the hard way, but it's all part of the journey.
Absolutely. And you were ahead of the curve with how you were positioning it and how you were having it represented. Um, who came up with the name? I think Womaness is such a great name for your,
thank you.
for what you are building.
That's so nice,
It's
Destiny.
true. Yeah.
We get a lot of positive
I
feedback
love
on the
the name.
names. Yeah. Even men are like, because I wear a sweatshirt that says Womaness, and they're like, Womaness, lioness.
So good. It's so good.
A lot of people love it. We wanted it to be almost like a platform where it felt bigger than just like a product. There's so many brands. I mean, think about it, 6, 7 years ago, that we were in the era of like all these consumer product categories being disrupted, like the deodorant category, the toothpaste category. Like you'd walk the aisles of Target and the period aisle, it's like, and everything was just all these, we laughed. It was always like 4-letter names. Everything was the same. And we started that way. And nothing was just resonating with Michelle and I. And then we'd pass it by our attorney and he'd say, I'm so sorry, that's taken. And we started coming up with the dumbest names. And those were even taken. Like there's people that just literally sit on these trademarks and then they try to sell them later. The world is, lost its marbles, okay? So he said, Sally, you have to put 2 words together. Try to do something with 2 words. So we liked the idea of womankind, but we knew it wasn't ownable. And all of a sudden, I think it was either my daughter or we were just like talking one day and we just said, Womaness. Like Ness is beauty. Ness means beauty and woman. So smash those 2 together and
it was available?
ended up, getting the
Yes,
name.
okay.
Yeah. And it was not easy, but we got the name and we love it. And, we obviously then went to work on creating the logo, and the logo has a lot of meaning behind it as well.
Okay,
So,
okay, wow. I love that story. Love
oh,
it.
thank you. It took us a year, though. It took us a year to get that name,
Wow,
just to have the idea of that name.
wow.
Yeah, it was very hard. So naming is not easy.
And there is almost at least for me, I found that with naming, there's a divine spark that also comes in that you can't control, right? It's like you almost have to manipulate the energy and then let it come in, which is also uncomfortable when you're building out a business.
I know, you're so right. You have to sit on it. You have to come back to it. A couple days later, you might not like it anymore, So the good thing is we still love the name, and we get a lot of positive feedback. And there's a lot that you can do with the name. Like, we have this cute little bag that we give, women with product that says sexiness, agelessness. Like, there's all these nest words.
Okay, I love that. So you have a perfect name, a product suite. So walk us through a little bit through the go-to-market. Did you know you were going to be D2C from the beginning as you're working through a retail channel? And interesting, like curious also about how you're thinking about getting the initial data points, like what's going to work and what doesn't and how fast or like how quickly.
Yeah. So Michelle and I really predicted, I would say, did a pretty good job predicting the hero products. So that was, so Let's Neck is our number one seller. And 2 months after launch, we were on the Ellen show, and we sold $85,000 worth of Let's Neck in one 24-hour period. It was the most exciting moment of my professional life, because I was just watching my computer like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. So with that being said, we had to have the inventory, to sell that much. So we did, I would say, I give us like a B+ for identifying the items that we wanted to buy deeper into, which items were kind of secondary and tertiary. But our go-to-market strategy was always omnichannel. We wanted to be for sure DTC, because we knew that we wanted to get to know our customer intimately. And the only way to do that is obviously have an e-commerce business, right? Where you can be corresponding with her, learning more about her behavior firsthand. So that has always been our number one channel. And then we knew eventually we wanted to be on Amazon, but we didn't launch right away on Amazon. We took our time. We, I think, launched about 9 months later, and then we were at retail. So given our backgrounds, both Michelle and I have had so much retail experience. Retail was always part of our plan. And like you said, it's back to that being accessible. So, and then from a marketing go-to-market, strategy, we immediately did advertise on Facebook and Instagram.
Huh?
And boy, have we learned a lot.
I believe that.
I can't, we're still learning. It is so challenging. We've had a lot of success with it, and then we've had a lot of challenges, and you just never know what's going to take off and what's not going to resonate. So it's you just have to test a lot, and you have to. Now we're in the era of more creative.
Absolutely, that's so necessary now.
Creative testing, yeah, creative testing is what drives it more so than campaign structure. We also knew press was going to be an important part of our go-to-market.
Okay.
So we went out very loud and proud, talking about menopause, pitched it to all of the morning shows. And, we ended up getting some really good press. Wow. We were on The View. We were on Tamron Hall show. Wow. We were covered in Bloomberg and People magazine. So I think we were really on the forefront,
Yes.
and I
Yes,
think
that's right.
the smart publishers knew that they wanted to start covering this
Yeah.
topic. So,
What's your
yeah.
breakdown now between D2C versus retail with driving sales and revenue, if you want to share? Yeah.
Yeah. So I always think about, Amazon and DTC kind of being the digital part of the business. And then there's the brick and mortar retail side of the business. Um, so everything is a third, a third, a third. So third is our website now. A third is Amazon and a third is retail. So that could change over time, but right now it's in 2026, it's about a third, a third, a third.
That seems like a pretty solid mix.
It is. It is. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. So it's just it's a good way to run a business because you're, like I said, you're not you're I would say eliminating some inherent risk by being, a lot of brands are like either 90% DTC, 10% Amazon, or the other end of the spectrum is all retail. And, retailers can be very challenging, very fickle. So I would not want 50% of my business to be wholesale retail with one retailer. I think that's just too risky.
So you mentioned that you were on the forefront. So in some ways, getting press and getting access in that way could have been, we should say, easier, or at least there was opportunity. And I'm curious, being earlier in the menopause conversation, how was that in your view, with driving sales? So, do you feel like it was harder because more education was involved? Did women understand that their symptoms were even related to peri and menopause? And how has that changed over the last few years when menopause is still having its moment?
What we learned at the very beginning, because our tagline when we first launched was menopause, meet your match. And we literally had it on all of our cartons, like all of our packaging. And what we learned, and a lot of it came from interacting firsthand with our customer. Like women didn't even know who we were. We were sitting in an Ulta store, and I would say, "Hi, I'm the co-founder of Womaness, and blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm through menopause. I don't need your product." No, you're still in menopause. You're still in it. When you go through menopause, you're in it until you leave the earth. And you have different symptoms along that journey, right? And it's a third of your life. It could be half of your life. So there's different need states throughout that journey. But you're totally right that there's been so much misunderstanding, so little education that we've had to educate women about even just the basics of menopause. Now that women are starting to understand that, the millennials are talking about perimenopause more openly. They actually use that term. They're starting to they understand it. And believe me, we're all smart women. This is no dish to women, but it is basically, I think, just a product of not having society talk
Yeah.
about this, right? Or doctors trained in it. So we were all so confused. So we learned a lot about using the word menopause. And
Ah.
we now definitely, I mean, that's what we
And
are. We are a menopause brand, but we invite her in through this concept of healthy aging. So we've now kind of created an umbrella called Live Fully, Age Well is our tagline. And healthy aging is more relatable to women. They're like, oh, I get that concept. And then you drill into menopause after that. So that's what we've had to learn. It's a lot of nuanced communication and terminology. And I think it will change over time. Like as perimenopause is more understood, as more and more women use it, you want to lead into using that term, right? So it's just we have to be flexible and listen to our customer which is what we've done. So now we don't we don't have anything on. We have copy on our packaging that talks about perimenopause and menopause and live fully, age well, but we don't have anything that will alienate anyone
Got it.
on the front.
Yes.
It's like
Yeah.
we know who we are. We're trying to invite as many women in
That makes so much sense.
and not intimidate. It's like everyone's invited into this party. And once you're there, then we'll educate you. But it's very nuanced.
What are you finding that there are more opportunities or more challenges as there are more brands that are entering the space, whether from a hormone perspective or from even increasing products and supplements as well?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different companies. A lot of midlife women are now claiming this as their career, right? Their new, entrepreneurial journey as well. A lot of doctors have now gone into the space because they themselves are probably going through menopause and they've seen the huge care gap. So it's a really interesting time. And we think competition is good. It validates the category, first of all. And second of all, it keeps the conversation in the forefront of culture and, zeitgeist. So I think it's all very healthy. And because if we were the only ones doing this, it would be like, oh my gosh, are we doing something wrong? But everyone, I always kind of remind my co-founder, like, everyone thought this was a great idea then they still do, right? And they're super excited about the future too. So all these smart people couldn't be wrong about this, but it has been hard. It has been hard.
Yeah.
And I think it's been such a taboo topic. It's, the word menopause is associated with aging and no one wants to age. So how do you get women to celebrate that more? And it's just, I find myself even fighting. It's like,
interesting.
A lot more wrinkles, but you have to embrace it. You can't reverse it.
Right.
You can work to
Optimize.
look healthier. Optimize. But the negative connotation with age has to really be diminished. I don't think it will ever go away, but it has to be diminished.
And I love and appreciate your concept and angle of healthy aging. I mean, it's so inclusive. It's a natural part of life, even if we don't want to age. It is inevitable. And I guess maybe getting into the weeds a little bit, I'm wondering on the D2C, whether it's paid channels or email marketing, are you leading with naming the symptoms, or are you finding that it's as effective to lead with healthy aging, even if they may or may not know what that means, right? And that's something that we find in our health marketing is if you name the symptoms and they're experiencing that could be an awareness breakthrough. If you name a term, they may or may not know if they're in that category. So
we don't lead with healthy aging. We're always experimenting, by the way, with our ads. But better than anyone, you have 2 seconds to get their attention. So you almost have to be you have to draw them in through something that's me. I can relate to that. Through the way the woman looks, what she says. Usually it is more of a problem solution format, right? So she's talking about a symptom, and then, here's the solution. But it's tricky because now that so many brands there's only so much, like when I grew up at Target, we used TV advertising to build our brand. Target's brand was so visual and TV was a great format. But you have to be a massive brand today to even scale connected TV, right? It's hard. So Meta becomes what everyone defaults to. And there's only so much, like, you have 3 seconds to communicate and educate. So it's hard. It's a hard channel, and it's at the same time, it's an important channel. And that's why we love complementing those kind of soundbitey channels like Meta with our emails, where we can actually go deeper. And there's so many women that need to be brought into the educational loop, right? And they appreciate it. So they're willing to read, an article about something. So yeah, or I think YouTube is interesting as
Mhm.
well, because you can
You can go longer
you
form.
can watch a video,
Yes. Yeah.
right, longer
Yes.
form. So
Yeah.
it's there's so many. Content is, as you know, the biggest opportunity. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think with Meta, just getting her attention,
Yes.
relatability.
Yes, yes. Is it worth it? This is probably going to be like edited or like offline, but worth it to touch on your retail partnerships between Target, pulling out Walmart, or should we go more into, or we can go more into your new products? Like what's juicier, or both?
Um,
Because you have a lot. I mean, I love your connection and just how you're sharing about stories.
oh,
So I really could go on
oh,
forever with
okay,
you.
good. Yeah, why don't I touch on where retail is at with this category? Okay, and then I could talk about the new product. Um, So retail is at, Destiny, a real inflection point as well in this category. I think so many of the retailers realize that they have such an opportunity to address midlife, healthy aging, women's health, not just for midlife, the whole stage from probably puberty all the way through longevity, that whole span. So it's been interesting to be in conversation with retailers, because they're trying to figure out, how do you communicate the category? Where do you put it in the store? And I'm talking the likes of a Target or a Walmart. We work with Ulta Beauty. We're really proud of that partnership. They have a destination in their store for women's wellness. And Walmart is carving out. We also launched with Walmart last year and have a great relationship with them, and they've really, really been supportive. So I think the buyers that understand that they have to have conviction and a long-term view of this category. You can't go into it thinking, oh, I'm just going to try it for 6 months, because it's not going to go away. If anything, it's going to get bigger. And you have to keep iterating on your initial execution. So it's you have to give it time. You have to maybe test different locations in the store, different ways to sign it. What's the right message? Is it healthy aging? Is it menopause solutions? Is it, you know, so Michelle and I have done as much as we possibly can to work with our retail partners to educate them on what we know about the category. And then they know their store, they know their customer. So we try to come together and figure this out. But it's fun. It's like we're at, I think, like I said, an inflection point.
And I think, in the case of Ulta, they have a specific location for it. But in the case of Walmart, did they have to figure out the location and the category over time? Okay.
Yeah, they carved out space for us and several other brands in the feminine hygiene section. So, yeah, yeah. Um, so, some of it now is signing. How do you educate their customer that there's more in that aisle than just vaginal products, right? Because we have, all of our supplements. We even have a body cream over there. There's other products over there. So, it's going to take a while to really train the customer that is the one-stop shop for all things menopause
I guess that
related.
reminds me, how much effort do you need to put on driving visibility of your retail placements or your brick and mortar placements? Like, do you need to invest in marketing for that? Does like Walmart expect you to invest in marketing for that? Because of course you need to keep product sales going, but how much is direct versus indirect?
It's hard. And it takes, a fair amount of marketing investment. So I think we Womaness wants to invest in that brand awareness and the retail, our retail partner awareness and association with our brand. So the thing is, meta ads are not the way to do it.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, I suppose, sure, we could try it, where it's almost like a little TV spot and you put at the end, available, blah, blah, blah. But it's so split second to get her attention. And it's still helping. There's a halo, we know that. But I think the best way to do it is through press and TV. We've done very well with organic TV as well as paid TV. We've been grateful for all the TV interviews. So it's a great way to say, and we're available at Walmart and Ulta Beauty. And, they always ask, okay, where can our audience find your product?
Right. That makes sense. Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So I think you have to look for media that allows you to communicate where you're available, because we are omnichannel. And I think it's hard, right? Because you have to invest in that. But we want to invest in it. And the retailers don't demand it. I think we want to do it because it helps all channels. And then what retailers do expect, though, is usually you participate in their programs. Like, they all have their own kind of retail media network.
Yes, that's right.
I'm sure you know all about that, because that's now a huge multi-billion-dollar business too, right?
That's right.
And so we support Walmart on Walmart Connect, which gives us the ability to do on-site display and search and all of those things.
Got it.
So that's, I would say that's kind of lower in the funnel, if you think about the funnel, the marketing funnel. So,
well, let's talk about what's next, right? New product lines coming, any growth initiatives, fundraising efforts that want to get shared.
Yeah. All of the above. Wow. So we were super excited about a product launch. It's going to be our biggest product launch since we launched the brand. And it's going to be in the sexual wellness category. So we are doing really well in that category. We know that our customer desperately needs solutions. Again, it's one of the top issues. She complains about vaginal dryness, and that ties to low libido and loss of pleasure and anxiety. I mean, they're all interrelated, but I think so many, and UTIs. Oh my gosh. I went through a period personally of having all these UTIs. I just found out there's a connection between UTIs and vaginal dryness.
I did not know this. Wow.
No, we just did a blog article about it. So there's just so much education that we need to do. So we are coming out with a new product in this space. This I would say more Q2, and we're just excited about leaning in to something in that, in the sexual wellness category, and doing it in a big way. So yeah, we're have a lot of support behind us.
That's very exciting. And just from being in the space, that's also a much needed and growing category as well. So yeah.
Right. Yes. And it affects, and I didn't know this as well, but it affects so many women that post-pregnancy.
Yes. That's right.
And if they're, Dr. Gila that we work with was educating me about lactate. If you're breastfeeding, you most likely experience vaginal dryness. And so these products aren't just, our positioning is obviously more perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, but we want to invite all women to benefit from it as well.
That's very exciting. I'm excited to see that as well. Yeah.
Thank
So new
you.
product lines, business, like what do you have for the business in 2026? I mean, obviously the new product lines is huge,
Yeah, well, we
but
grew quite a bit last year over
mm,
2024. This year, we're planning even more
okay.
growth. We are working hard to be profitable. It's hard when you're creating a new category. We've had to invest a lot in marketing and education. So we're on our way on that front, and we have great investors. We're always looking for
Okay.
more.
Okay. Very good to know. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So I'll put that out there. But
Absolutely. Maybe ending this on a more personal note. So we named this podcast Reclaim. And so I would love to hear from you what you believe your customers are reclaiming or what you've had to reclaim. I mean, it sounds like being a founder has just been in your DNA. It's wired from the very beginning, and I can certainly relate to that. Um, and what parts of you had to reclaim or shift that you didn't maybe expect to on this founder journey? And from my view, this is your life's work. Yes, I mean, would you say that's accurate, or do you feel like there could be some more
yeah, this
iterations?
is my last big
Okay.
hurrah, too. I'm
Okay.
61
Wow. Wow.
and a half.
Yes.
So,
So now you're in this chapter of your life's work. And yeah, so like reclaim for your customers, for you. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I would just say for the midlife
Yeah.
woman, when you think about it, we're reclaiming her and celebrating her. And, when we first launched, no one was advertising to
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
Only we had the stat in our investor pitch deck that was only 5% of advertising dollars are directed to her. And yet she has $15 trillion in spending
Wow.
power. I think it's changed. I think the spending power has only gotten
Yeah.
bigger. I think the advertising let's say it even doubled. That's not much, right? But I think when, the NFL just invited us to have a Womaness booth at a pre-party there at the Super Bowl. My point of saying that is like, there's midlife women everywhere. And we all have so much wisdom and so much just passion for life. And a lot of women want to help the younger generation, whether it's the moms helping their daughters or just we feel like we owe it to the younger generation that they don't suffer in silence. Our moms, so many of my friends' moms, none of them talked about menopause. I mean, my mom is still in denial she ever went through it. So we all kind of suffered in silence, and now we're talking about it. And now the younger generation sees that, and they're not going to put up with it. So we want to be a role model for them. So I think it's reclaiming the midlife woman and how much power she really has in the world, and so much time left. She has a lot of time left to give back.
Love that. And I have goosebumps after you were sharing that. So good. So good. Any last notes on yourself and your personal journey with what you've had to maybe own and shifting yourself? I mean, that was amazing. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think just being a founder, as you know, is 24/7. You don't, even if you're not in front of your computer, you're thinking about it.
You're planning.
So I've had to find ways to totally, remove myself so that I could come back with a fresh perspective. So I'm in Florida right now. So with my mom, but I'm trying to play tennis because tennis, you can't think about womaness while you're playing tennis.
Yeah.
So it's healthy,
Yes.
right? It allows you to kind of park womaness to the side, come back to it. And so I think so many women have so much on their plate.
That's
too.
right.
We're taking care of aging parents. We still have kids that need us,
Our Spouses,
demanding
yes.
job.
There's a lot.
I know, everyone needs
Yes.
us. So it's taking time to focus on some exercise and our own health, I think is really important.
Amazing. Well, so good. This has been, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
It was so fun. Such great questions.
Thanks for listening to Reclaim. If you're building a women's health, consumer wellness, or family brand, and you want a growth partner who understands trust-based categories, visit scalewithfuture.com. And if this conversation resonated, follow the show so you don't miss what's next. I'm Destiny Berman. See you next time.